First of all, what we know in the Mediterranean basin in relation to the climate change is that temperature surface is getting warmer. This is a constant trend that we've been registered in the last 20 years, and we also faced the peak of temperature at the sea level, even up to 5 to 6 degrees above the climatological average. And this is in relation also to the intensity of marine heat waves that in the latest year are becoming more important. And in fact, recently we observed even a peak of temperature reaching up to 32 degrees in the south of the Mediterranean. Temperature is a key factor influencing digestive metabolic processing and feeding in fish. First of all the digestion process can be affected. Also, high temperature increase the use of endogenous resourcing and is also considering a stressful environmental condition that will also have a role in affecting feed intake. And lately, temperature will induce membrane acclimatization into the fish, but we will look briefly in some of these aspects. First of all, high temperature can alter gastric pH and also can change the membrane composition of the mucosa that will affect the nutrient transport process in fish. The gut evacuation is also potentially accelerated and then can have an effect on the nutrient absorption efficiency in this animal, as well as we can observe a reduction or an altered enzyme activity, since digestive enzyme activity are temperature dependent, as well as they are also dependent from the gastrointestinal pH. And lately, the gut microbiome has been recently observed that is largely affected by temperature stress in this fish. The digestion and assimilation of a meal are also affecting the metabolism because are highly energy demanding processes. So the cost increase with increasing of the temperature. So fish must spend more energy to maintain physiological function. And this will also lead to what is called the reducing of metabolic capacity. So the aerobic scope with increasing the temperature is reducing. And also this is also in relation to the inhibition of feed intake due to the increase of cortisol level for the high temperature stress effect on fish. High temperature and also low temperature will affect the membrane acclimatization by what is called homoviscosity adaptation. So the fish will tend to shift the lipid fatty acid composition, but also the structure of the lipid composition in the membrane to adapt to the thermal condition. This is, of course, cost effective, and so this will also be largely dependent by the dietary fatty acid composition. We know that not all fish are able at the same time to modify the lipid fatty acid composition. So giving by diet, this will, of course, reduce the cost for the animal to this cell membrane adaptation. Recently have been stated in this biological review that's the ability of an exotherm, so such as a fish, to persist in increasing high temperature environment will depend from the nutritional status. What we know today is that diet can influence the thermal limit of a fish, and of course, but we don't know on all the nutrients, how the nutrient will have this physiological thermal effect. We know mostly the effect of several vitamins and minerals, for example, due to the antioxidant capacity, vitamin C, vitamin E, minerals such as selenium, iron, and zinc, for example. We don't know, there are very few information about the role of macronutrient ratio, lipid, protein, lipid, and carbohydrate on what can be the thermal resistance of the animal and how the animal will cope to the increasing temperature, also due to an increasing higher demand. So what is needed is needed to refine and optimize the macronutrient ratio during a challenging condition of increasing high temperature. What is the basis of this hypothesis? For example, going into the protein, the interaction between macronutrient and temperature, it states that high protein diets are preferred as temperature increase. That's to maintain maximal growth and protein turnover in response to rising metabolic demand. This has been also recently studied in a recent paper. This is not a Mediterranean species, but it's a carnivorous species, Asian sea bass, where have been tested juvenile animal and we have been exposed to suboptimal high temperature conditions, so a few degrees above normal temperature conditions, so 35 degrees in this case, and exposed to two levels of high protein, one level, sorry, of high protein, one level of high lipid, low protein, and also exposed to different level of oxygen saturation. And in this case, it was observed that the high protein diet performed better in terms of growth and feed utilization, and also it enhanced some key physiological traits such as oxygen carrying capacity due to the increase of hematocrit and hemoglobin in this diet. In another trial, also recent trials, similar species, carnivorous spotted sea bass, juvenile animal from 2 to 40 grams were also exposed to high temperature condition up to 33 degrees and tested fed with different increasing level of protein. And these authors found different protein requirement at different temperature. Actually, the highest protein requirement was at the lowest temperature found. Going to what is the macronutrient ratio hypothesis states for lipid quantity is that as metabolic demand increases with temperature, fish will require a greater proportion of easy to digest energy sources. Also, in this case, there are not many studies that put in relation lipid quantity with extreme high temperature. There is one study that also in juvenile Asian sea bass, they tested for 4 weeks, 27 degrees, one diet with high lipid and one diet with low lipid. And then these fish were subject to thermal resilience stress up to 38 degrees. That was a high limit for this species. And in this case, even if the high lipid diet increase the growth with increasing in this temperature, it was found that the high lipid diet reduced the thermal tolerance of extreme water temperature. This was stated by the maximum critical temperature observed and also by the lower level of hemoglobin found. Going to a Mediterranean species, this is a study we conducted several years ago on wilted sea bream. Maintained at high temperature that we set up as a summer temperature, 27 degrees at that time, and we fed with different ratio of protein lipid, with increasing level of lipid up to 24 degrees. And in this case, the high lipid diet did not increase growth, even not improve the retention of protein. At the end, the lipid above 18 degrees were reducing the economical efficiency of the overall production activity. It's also important, as I mentioned before, to think about the lipid quality. As lipid quality, we mean fatty acid composition of the lipid, and also the ratio between neutral and phospholipid. The basic theory is that the length, altering the length of degree of saturation of fatty acid is expensive for, is a cost for the fish, rather than assimilating them directly from the diet. So also in this case, we have to look to optimize the composition of the diet in relation to the temperature in terms of fatty acid. Saturated or long-chain fatty acids are less digestible in comparison than polyunsaturated fatty acid than short-chain fatty acid. But also we have to consider the polyunsaturated fatty acids are more susceptible to lipid peroxidation that can due to oxidative stress. In this case, there are some studies that mostly have been conducted to improve the thermal tolerance, but in cold condition, in warm animal exposed to cold condition. In this case, to in the increasing of polyunsaturated fatty acid and phospholipid increase the thermal tolerance at cold temperature as expected. When we go to searching for what was the effect on polyunsaturated fatty acid and the capacity to let the animal to adapt to high temperature, I went to a quite old study, but was very interesting in sea bass. In this case, animals were exposed to temperature, one we can consider above the optimal, 29 degrees and 122. It were, let's say, juvenile up to 25 gram animal, fed with 2 levels of highly unsaturated fatty acid. That was 2.2% and 0.4%. And the author at the end state that 3 months deficiency in omega-3 highly unsaturated fatty acid did not impair the fish capacity to adapt to high temperature. So basically, there is a limited available information on what are the nutritional requirements of animals exposed to suboptimal temperature, especially for the Mediterranean species. And within the ACTFAST project, we have a work package dedicated to activity on the Mediterranean Sea. That is work package 2, and where we focus the attention on improve the resilience of European sea bass. In this work package, we have a specific objective to enhance the production efficiency by developing climate-corrected aquafeed. This activity will be done by us at University of Bologna in collaboration with Scretin and Cromaris, that we will we will look at nutritional requirement in terms of macronutrients, so protein, lipid, and carbohydrate of adult sea bass under a climate change scenario. And we will test this activity also in field condition in Cromaris. Few words on the methodology. We decided to work on European sea bass because has been stated that in comparison to gilt and sea bream, European sea bass is much vulnerable to climate change in immediate time, and adult animal is known to be more affected by high temperature and low oxygen in terms of metabolic capacity to cope with a very high temperature. We will set up trials, feeding trial with different protein, lipid, and carbohydrate to maximize the performance and of course the the feed efficiency of European sea bass. We will use a zero waste approach. That is a approach that we use since previous Nutec Aqua project, looking at the formulation in terms, of course, of nutrient, but also in terms of ingredients. So using a product that has been set up for a low carbon footprint. And we will play with high temperature and low oxygen. We will get this information for a work package one that is based on the prediction of the temperature within the Mediterranean. And this work will be performed firstly in laboratory condition in Cesenatico, and then we will test in-field trial at Cromaris Far. What are the outcome expected? We expect to improve the feed efficiency. The goal is more toward the mitigation, reducing the waste output, of course, of dissolved output, such as minimizing the ammonium, for example, excretion, and also to reduce the carbon footprint for off-kilo per fish produced. But at the same time, we will look at what are the main metabolic partner achieved in terms of fish thermal resilience. This is to improve the adaptation of the animal at this specific size of the growing. So thank you very much, and stay tuned for all the work we will done in that ACTFAST, and also from greetings from our facility that we are going to renew very soon. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Luca. Thank you, Luca, for this very interesting presentation. So a lot of material there. We will maybe we can have just a few seconds for any top of the heads question that the audience would have. We have a bit more time tomorrow because we knew this would be a very detailed and a more technical discussion with the research being currently led. So we wanted to give a bit more time for experts to go more in depth with their current work and the objectives of this ACTFAST project. So if there is anything or any question that anyone would like to raise before we carry on with the next presentation, please feel free to do so. Quickly, I see a hand raised. Long time no see. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm good. It's cold. It's about 0 degrees here in Sweden. But so we don't have the fish at 30 degrees, what you said. It was what I concluded from your presentation. Thank you for this. Very much information to take. But you have to adapt the diet to the fish when the temperature goes up. And then you mentioned the lipid needs for energy purposes. I wonder, when the temperature go up, can you also count in that the fish might be able to use carbohydrates?
Yeah, that is very important to mention. That carbohydrate can be also preferred by the fish because can be more easily to digest by some fish, but it's not for all the species in this case. But will be including the ratios of carbohydrate. That is an interesting topic, but of course not all fish have the same ability to digest. But usually at high temperature they may be preferred because are less the energy demand for digesting. Yes,
and maybe also can affect the price of the feed.
Yes, yeah, that's also true. But carbohydrates are into the, let's say, into the ratio of this in this design, of course. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ola. Silvia.
Yes, I also have a question. I should probably watch this like 2-3 times to understand everything, but thank you very much, Luca. So my question is that how should it look like in practice? So if I had a farm and I see that the temperature is above a certain temperature, the water temperature, should I switch from, if I had the opportunity to switch from one diet to another, or what's the safe solution in this case? Like in the future, they should the fish farmers should have different kind of feeds at hand, or yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that would be the practical solution. It would be to use a specific diet for high temperature. Yeah, that is absolutely the final outcome. I mean, this project is directly working for the industry. So then two big industry are involved in this activity. So that's is definitely the goal, to use specific diet for a specific thermal ingredient. Yeah.
And so the feed producing companies are already, I guess, looking into this, how they can produce different kind of temperature adaptable diets, or I guess, yeah. So
Yes,
there's a
correct.
need, I guess.
Yeah, it's correct. It's a topic of already interest, but there are not many, let's say, all around the studies that are conducted both in laboratory and in field. But it's surely a topic that we have the industry is looking, and it will go further in this project, also because we will have also some in this project, some additional information on what can be also the prediction of the future temperature. So we will look at bit also further in this sense. Yeah.
Thank you, Silvia. Maybe just one comment. I would be very interested to know, because you mentioned also in the introduction part, all about the biome, the microbiome and macrobiota, which is also a key parameter in how the fish nutrition is going to be transformed and efficient. So knowing how ACTFAST or other projects are trying to assess also the capacity we have in analyzing the effects of climate in the evolution of the biota of the fish, to be able also to play on that and react on that, not only on the feed, but about the fish's microbiome, which is like its key symbionts to help it digest. So maybe we can talk a bit more about that in what ACTFAST will provide as an output, or maybe there are other more specific projects about that.
Yeah, in this case, we are not set up dedicated study on the gut microbiome. We know that microbiome is gut microbiome is absolutely a key topic, and we are working on it. Also, it will have, of course, directly linked to the diet, but we know that the gut microbiome is affected by the temperature. We have tested it. It will be the interaction could be more in relation to the feed additives. In this case, there are specific ingredients, specific prebiotics that can help in modulating the gut microbiome. So that's is also true. Yeah.
Okay, so more about that later on. Before we go to Enric or Silvia, we'll see. Bernard, you wanted to raise a point.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Hello,
thank you very
Bonaldo.
much. I just wanted to ask, is this more a digital effect or an analog effect? So is there a point where you have to change it, or is it step by step you have to change this? I know it from other animals, there's a break-even point. And but I could imagine this is more an analog system, and I wanted to know this from the scientists.
We can imagine there will be a point that diet can be more efficient in term for the animals. So there will be I would say a limit point in which we will define some thermal regime for this specific diet. Yes. It will be, of course, this is a, let's say, when we talk of one thing, that is also to think that is just a part of a more complex solution. It's not just the solution, this is part of the solution, for example, such as later my colleague Enric will talk about how from the other side, the feed additives, so the micronutrient, for example, can give an extra input, for example, to acute events that are, let's say, giving more stress. In this case, we have to think also more chronically based. I would say that these diets are more the baseline to increase the feed efficiency. That's still is very important, I think. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bernard. Thank you, Luca. So I suggest we move on to the next presentation, so to be given by Enric and Silvia. So I would let you take the floor and share the presentation as you see fit. Enric? Please activate your microphone.
Good idea, Serge. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for your time and for following us our talks. And probably during the presentation of Luca, you may be wondering, okay, but as fish farmers, which tools do we have to fight to mitigate this impact of raising temperatures, raising acidity, decreasing the pH values of our waters? So, okay, in the following minutes, me and Silvia, we are trying to give you some hints, some ideas on how, through the mean of functional feeds, we can mitigate or prevent these disease risks that we are constantly facing in our farming facilities. And, okay, sorry, let me pass it. Okay, and I don't have to talk you about this very much, but you know by heart that climate change is reshaping all the social economic activities in our planet. And aquaculture is not going to be an exception. As you can see in this modeling map, there is going to be areas in the world where aquaculture is going to substantially decrease its production, and other areas that are going to benefit for this increasing in water temperatures. But whatever the reason, whatever the region of the of the planet that you are involved in, climate change is going to change the way that we do or we fish or we farm our fish nowadays. Okay, so how are we going to tackle this? One of the main risks, and as already Luca introduced it at the beginning of this presentation, is that the increase in water temperatures are going to suppose an increase in the stress and in metabolism of fish, regardless of their being ectothermic, cold water species. An increase in water temperature are going to increase their metabolism, their physiology, but also pathogens are going also to increase. We are going to increase the virulence of certain strains of pathogenic bacteria, which are going to affect our fish. We also could spread the distribution of some pathogens due to these larger areas of warmer water temperatures, or even new bacteria are going to appear as pathogenic, so they will impact on our fish farming activities. So disease management and disease risk is going to be one of the main issues to face and to tackle within this area of climate change. And you may wondering, okay, so how we can address this when we are facing an area of One Health in which public administrations and in which fish farmers have been responsible in reducing the amount of chemicals and antibiotics or antimicrobials that we use in our facilities. So do we have any choice? Do we have any option to fight, to mitigate? And the answer is yes. I want to give you a positive message, but it's not in treating, it's just in preventing. Okay, in some cases, of course, when the disease is going to be there, it's going to be very difficult to get rid of if we don't apply antimicrobials that are prescribed by a veterinarian. But also, there is a good time for prevention by, as we are going to see, by functional feeds and by proper feeding our animals. Okay, so this is one we are going to see in the following slides. And the diet, and a well-balanced diet, is critical for that. We need proteins for growth. We need proteins for synthesizing muscle. We need fatty acids or lipids for growth, for structuring new cells, vitamins, minerals, whatsoever. And it's very important. A well-balanced diet will support growth, will support all the physiological processes in the organism, and of course, also will support the good health and with a good welfare of our farm animals. And this is what Luca was saying to you before. We have to adapt the diet to the different stages of development, to the different seasons of the year. In summer and winter, fish don't require the same nutrients. Their physiology is different because the water temperature changes, and we have to adapt the diet formulation in terms of energy, in terms of macronutrients, in terms of micronutrients, to the moment of the year that we are looking for. Or for example, if we are planning to move our fish around the area, if we are planning to transport our fish from the nursery to the sea cages, or from the hatchery to our ponds, and we are going to expect a sort of stress in this handling, in this manipulation, in this transfer, also we can manipulate the diet for supporting and for mitigating the stress that animals are going to receive due to this handling and operational activities. In addition to a well-balanced diet, we have other options, and this is what we are going to talk today, is the functional feeds, is those feeds that have some nutritional properties that go beyond the expected role of a diet that is supporting growth and supporting all the physiological normal processes of a fish. And if you allow me to synthesize it in this way, for example, a functional feed promotes growth, promotes welfare, and promotes the robustness of our farm fish. At the same time, it produces or it enhances immunity. And when I say immunity, I can talk about systemic immunity, is the immunity that is circulating through the blood system, but I also referring or talking about local immunity, is those tissues that has some lymphoid tissues that can have an immune response, like the intestine, like the gills, or like the skin. These are first barriers for pathogens to interact with the organism, to enter into the body, so they have their own immune system to fight against pathogens. Also, these functional feeds can promote the gut condition. And you know, the intestine is the first place for an optimal digestion, nutrient absorption, and those nutrients are going to be used for growth, for somatic growth, for all the physiological functions of the organism. So a healthy gut normally is also a healthy fish. Then these functional feeds can also support us for reducing or mitigating stress tolerance. For example, if when we put tryptophan in our diets, we are improving the tolerance of fish to the stress. So in fish that has to be quite with high density, tryptophan has been reported to have a beneficial role in the stress tolerance and reducing the level of aggressiveness among fish. Then also, when we use functional feeds, we improve biomasses, we sometimes decrease size dispersion, we improve our feed conversion ratios, and this is very important for you because feeding cost is one of the main economic costs of your facilities. Also, we optimize the use of facilities, okay? And also, one of the final goals, we reduce mortality and we reduce morbidity. So we reduce mortality, we can increase the biomasses at the end. If we reduce morbidity, we have a more healthy animals with a good external appearance. So it's a very good product quality that we can put into the market. And at the end, also, there are some feed additives that promote the fillet quality. For example, those that you are working with salmonids, or the astaxanthin that you are included in the diets are for promoting this orange pink color of the fillet. Or even if you are using antioxidants, you extend the shelf life of your fillet with the inclusion of polyphenols and other antioxidant nutrients like vitamins or minerals. And also, some other functional feeds improve the nutritional value of the fillet in terms of the consumer consumption. Whatever the option it is, we are going to try to provide you some practical examples to show you that you are not alone. There are some nutritional strategies already available in the market that you can count on for preventing disease risk. I repeat, not for treating them, so they are more prophylactic than therapeutic, and are options that you may find in the market under different brands, under different trademarks. So I'm not going to talk about trademarks or brand. I'm just going to talk about additives or nutrients, okay? And my first example are nucleotides, okay? Nucleotides, as you know, are the basic building blocks for nucleic acids, and you know by heart which are these nucleic acids, for example, DNA and RNA. And when we supplement our diets with just 1 gram of nucleotides per kilogram of feed, different studies have seen an increase in somatic growth. This is especially relevant because nucleotides are used for muscular growth. And you know, when fish growth requires growth in terms of musculature, in addition to other systems, because at the end, musculature is what we are interested in because it's the fillet that we are selling. And also, it reduces it enhances the palatability of the feed. This is especially relevant with diets with high levels of vegetable meats, plant protein sources. And it improves the taste, so animals are more attracted to eat those pellets, and also enhances the feed intake. But in addition to this more key performance indicator related to somatic growth, also nucleotides are important because they enhance the immunity. They enhance the immunity at the level of systemic immunity, okay, at the level of spleen, head kidney, or even liver, which are the organs that are involved in this systemic immunity, but also at the local immunity, at the gills, at the skin, and at the gut. And also in some trials, they have reported that when you supplement your fish with a diet with nucleotides that are going to be vaccinated, also this supports the efficacy of the vaccine process. So you make your fish more resistant to a disease if you have been vaccinated them, but also at the same time feed them with nucleotides. Furthermore, nucleotides also promote and enhance the digestive function. We were talking before about the importance of a healthy gut. So nucleotides promote the growth of the epithelial layers of the intestine, the growth of villi. Also, you have larger villi, you have more absorption, surface of absorption for nutrients. And also nucleotides provide some essential nutrients that can be important for the intestinal mucosa, but also for the microbiota. And we were talking before about the microbiota. A healthy microbiota also in the gut intestine, it corresponds or it matches with a healthy fish. So also it's important to supply nutrients and to supply the optimal conditions for our in the gut for supporting a good healthy microbiota, because at the end also it's translated into a healthy fish. And it's not the question of today, but also there are studies that have been shown that diets supplemented with nucleotides improve the reproductive performance, improve quality, and also improve fecundity in some fish species. But normally what you are going to use nucleotides is for enhancing immunity. And if you enhance immunity, you mitigate disease risk, or you work under the disease prevention. Another group of additives that we also may include in our diets for promoting immunity is what we call beta-glucans. Beta-glucans are just non-digestible carbohydrates that are present in plants, in fungi, in bacteria, or even in macroalgae. And it contains some bonds and some structural organization that the fish recognizes, or is quite similar to what it has into the envelope or into the cell membrane of a gram-negative bacteria. So it's like a tricky game with the fish. We are saying to the fish that be careful, because that looks like a gram-negative bacteria, and you know that gram-negative bacteria are normally disease agents, so are pathogenic bacteria. So the mechanisms, the cell receptor of the animal recognize these beta-glucans as if it was a cell membrane of a gram-negative bacteria, and we, like this, boost our immunity. Okay, we start to activate some immune mechanisms for preventing this potential invasive of a bacteria, but it's not an invasion of a bacteria. It's just a feed additive that we are including in our diet. In this sense, beta-glucans work as an immunomodulator. It enhances immunity, but also at a local level, at systemic level. Also, if we have an immunocompromised fish and a fish that has been stressed, immunocompromised, beta-glucans may compensate this immunocompromising in fish, and also it may support adaptive immunity when we vaccinate our fish, but results are contradictory depending on the study that we look at. Also, these beta-glucans enhance the gut function, modulate the activity of some digestive enzymes, especially those produced by the exocrine pancreas, and also modulate gut microbiota. Okay, these beta-glucans can be detected by the microbiota that is colonizing our gut, and they may promote the growth of beneficial bacteria. And these beneficial bacteria, at the end, they will have a beneficial effect on the fish. Then also beta-glucans reduce the antioxidant or promotes or modulates the oxidative stress response to the animal. Remember, higher temperature, as Luca said, are going to increase the production of reactive oxygen species, so are going to enhance the oxidative stress. So beta-glucans can ameliorate the response of the fish in front of this oxidative stress that they are facing due to high temperatures or due to dietary disorders or due to the presence even of a pathogen, because oxidative stress response is also part of this immune response that fish has. And at the end, the final goal of administering beta-glucans is to increase disease resistance towards any kind of gram-negative bacteria in general, because the system that the animal recognizes this additive is the same system that bacteria are recognized by fish. Another example is going to be probiotics. Probiotics is just administration of normally live bacteria into the feed, and these live bacteria have some benefits into the host. In addition, in some cases, improving water quality by reducing ammonia compounds, nitrites, or nitrates. But we are just more focused today in the administration in terms of the dietary, in terms of a diet, and what they do normally. Probiotics promote growth, okay, of the fish. In some cases, also reduce feed conversion ratio, which is very, very relevant. Also enhances local and systemic immunity. Local immunity is very important. For example, at the level of the skin, there are some probiotics that has been reinforcing the skin barrier. So we have a more barrier in the skin, so less risk of some pathogens to enter into the body through the skin. And the same happens with the gut. And normally how this works, because probiotics modulate gut microbiota. We are including in the diet a bacteria with beneficial effects on the host, beneficial effects on the fish. And which beneficial effects these can be? The proportion of nutrients. Some vitamins from the group B or vitamin K, or even short-chain fatty acids could be produced by this bacteria, and this will have a beneficial effect on the whole microbiome community that is colonizing the gut. But also, they can avoid the colonization of pathogenic bacteria in the gut due to exclusion. If I am there, I don't leave any other room for other bacteria to reach some areas of the intestine and colonize them, and these bacteria could be pathogenic. So by exclusion or by chemotaxis, I can get rid of or reduce the risk of colonization of pathogenic bacteria in the gut. In addition, also probiotics enhance the digestive function, promote the structure of the intestinal mucosa, promote the barrier function of this intestine. A less permeable intestine is a more healthy intestine because reduced risk of penetration of bacteria paracellularly, okay? And also some probiotics also have been reported to modulate the activity of digestive enzymes. But all these functions are through the manipulation and are through changes on the gut microbiota. And also, but not the least, some studies have reported that the administration of probiotics could be beneficial in terms of the reproductive performance. They increase fecundity and also they improve egg quality. And as I was saying before, the final goal of all these processes will be increase disease-resistant, again, pathogenic bacteria, like, for example, gram-negative ones. Okay, if we give probiotics, also we can give prebiotics. And what is prebiotic? Prebiotics are normally non-digestible polysaccharides that are used as feed ingredients for bacteria. So if we want to grow beneficial bacteria in our gut, let's feed them with a compound that the fish cannot digest by itself, but bacteria can. So we are going to promote the growth of bacteria by the administration of these prebiotics in the diet, like, for example, inulin, lactulose, these transgalactolosaccharides, fructooligosaccharides, or mannan oligosaccharides. All these compounds can be included in commercial diets, and the final goal of them is to enhance the growth of good or beneficial bacteria into the gut. So what it has been reported as their inclusion in the diet with or without probiotics normally improves somatic growth, reduces feed conversion ratio, but at the same time, it enhances immunity because it modulates gut microbiota. As you can see, there is a good crosstalk and interlink between nutrition, microbiota, and immunity. This effect is what I was telling you. It modulates this gut microbiotica, so it promotes the growth of beneficial bacteria. And also, as we said before with the probiotics, it avoids the colonization of pathogenic bacteria. And also these prebiotics, because at the end, prebiotics are like fiber, okay? And we know when we have some digestive problems, sometimes fiber is very good for normalizing the transit into our digestive system. It enhances the functionality of the digestive mucosa. It enhances the good barrier function. As I was telling you, a less permeable gut is a more healthy gut. And also it modulates the activity of some digestive enzymes. And normally, when you're going to find in the market is that probiotics and prebiotics are going to be included in the diet together. Is what we say is like a symbiotic. A symbiotic is nothing else than a probiotic with a prebiotic together, which has been tested before that they work. And when the probiotic can use the prebiotic as food, and the final output of this mixture in your diet is going to be beneficial in terms of growth, in terms of feed conversion, in terms of modulating of your gut microbiota, in terms of improving the gut function and disease barrier and gut barrier, or even improving the immune response of your fish at the local, but also as a systemic level. And the last but not the least of the examples that we would like to talk to you today is organic acids. Also, organic acids now are is a hot topic. A lot of people are working in organic acids, and they normally, they function, the final role is modulate also the gut microbiota and also modulate the gut environment for promoting a good condition of the gut and also good condition on the host. So when we have included organic acids in our diets, we see a good or improvement in the somatic growth, a reduction in feed conversion ratio. The digestion is improved, so you spend less feed to reach the same final biomass. Also, they promote systemic and local immunity, mainly at the level of the gut, because these organic acids interact with the intestinal mucosa, and they are beneficiary for the intestinal mucosa, but also they also affect the gut microbiota. Another example about how the diet modulates gut microbiota, and this modulation of gut microbiota has a direct impact on the overall health and immune response of the fish. And also, as I said before, it enhances the gut function, the barrier, increases the mucosal fold size, so more absorption area for better absorption of nutrients, and also some organic acids have been to have an anti-inflammatory action. And in some diets with high levels or moderate levels of plant protein sources where we may face some enteritis disorders, organic acids could be beneficial on that issue. So we are almost reaching the end of our presentation. We just gave you some examples of some additives that we can include in our diets for promoting growth, for promoting survival, disease resistance, immunity, improving water quality, improving condition of the host, with the final goal of improving the financial success of your company or reducing finally cost. These are not the only examples. As you can see in the slide, there are many options on the table. There are many options depending on the feed manufacturer, on the feed additive producer. And at the end, it's a question of you with your feed manufacturer company of trust to decide which is the best strategy for your fish, depending on the season of the year, depending on the stage of development, and depending also on your economical challenges. Okay. Once having said that, I would like to pass the floor to my colleague, Silvia, who is going to explain to you how we are going to tackle, in part within this ACTFAST project, the functional feeds toward mitigating the impact of climate change and disease resistance in aquaculture conditions. Silvia, please.
Yeah, well, this is on a slide just presenting you our actions we plan on Work Package 2. Luca was before explaining you the first task where they will develop new diets adapted to this situation derived from this global warming or this climate change situation. So, but once they will have this formula that is working properly for sea bass, they will test it in commercial conditions, but we will try to do a version 2.0 of that diet where we want to introduce feed additives, trying to in some way see if we adapt the diet with the proper protein content, lipid content, and composition of amino acids and fatty acids. But it's true that we will be testing that under, for example, high temperatures. And there are some implications of the changes that Luca explained you before. It's about the changes on the structure, also on the of the cells, because we will change the composition of the lipids. It will condition the immune pro-inflammatory response, because there are a lot of lipids, long-chain PUFA, that are balancing this response. But once that it's covered in a proactive approach, then we want to test if once we cover this abiotic challenge, there is an implication on the biotic challenge, because when temperatures and conditions will change, the host pathogen interactions will change too. So we can use functional additives as a proactive strategy to try to, in some way, counteract that. So we are gonna prepare the fish in case there is an interaction with a pathogen. We can do it in several ways. We can mitigate first the effects of oxidative stress or the changes in biotic conditions by preparing the fish with several of the products that Enric just talked about, but we can also protect the fish with other products that can promote the endogenous antioxidant system of the fish. So in case we have a heat wave, they are gonna be protecting the cellular system of the fish. So in this case, in some way, it's predicted that they will be more resistant to a pathology caused by, for example, a Vibrio, because their cellular system will be more protected to fight against this pathogen. So what we're going to do is to combine this, simulate a heat wave, and we are going to assess how these fish fed these new feeds with several feed additives are responding to abiotic change against Vibrio. And then once we have this, we will try to assess which are the best specific feeding strategies to cover both objectives, to minimize the abiotic stress consequences in fish, and also to prepare the fish against any possible disease outbreak. So this will be in task 1, and in the second task, we will use a mix of phage therapy to see, we will select in collaboration with ACTI. It will be done by Dr. Maria Lavilla, and she will select some cocktails of phages that will act against specific Vibrio strains. And then we will try to combine that phage therapy also with our functional feeds to see if in some way we can give extra protection against against the pathogens that can cause pathologies to these fish species. More or less, we will use these 2 strategies in this work package.
Cool. Thank you very much, Silvia, for your explanation, and thank you very much, all of you, for your attentions, and questions are welcome. And we are sorry if you don't see your species there in the picture, but we tried to select just 4 of the most relevant in our Mediterranean or European region. Thanks.
So good afternoon again. I'm here to share with you some preliminary information about ACTFAST, and also share the satisfaction about the result achieved. We're very thrilled to start this project and give our contribute to the development of aquaculture in Europe. We are looking forward to starting. So the background, you know better than me, what is the challenge now for aquaculture in the world and in Europe. We must increase the production, diversify the production, but in a more sustainable way. So this is a very big challenge. But at the moment, climate change is a limit for the growth, because as you know, many problems are raising in the European aquaculture, like pandemia, alien species, less efficiency in growth, genetics problems, parasites, everything. So we need local adapting solutions for aquaculture, but we also have a responsibility as all the other production sectors. We must also mitigate climate change, so we must reduce the carbon footprint of aquaculture. So in this context, when we started looking at the potential activities of ACTFAST, because ACTFAST is a solution-oriented project, we look at the gaps that aquaculture is facing now to be resilient against climate change. And you can see here the list of gaps that we selected. The first one, the unpredictable weather events that are happening in the last years. And this is very frustrating for farmers, because sometimes storms or heat waves occur all of a sudden without any information on any alarm from the weather forecasting systems. About low carbon feed formulation, we are still far from carbon neutrality, very far. And if we want to reach the carbon neutrality within 2050, we must work on it. As we were saying before, fish welfare and fish health are decreasing because of climate change for direct effects and indirect effects, because pathogens, for example, grow more in a warmer temperature, for example, are more infectious and more dangerous, but fish are also more stressed, and sulfur is sometimes in worse than in optimal temperature, environmental temperature. It's also difficult to understand when problems start in farm. Sometimes mortalities happen just one day after the other, and there are no prediction systems to understand what is happening under the water surface. Sometimes you find thousands of fish dead in the morning and without any clue the day before. Then algal blooms, which is more related to freshwater aquaculture, the alien species predation. You surely know the big problem we have in Italy now with the blue crab, which is predating clams, and also the limited development of integrated systems like IMTA and aquaponics. So these are the gaps that we selected. Not all, of course, we cannot solve all the problems. We are trying to do our best. So this is the objective. The first part is quite easy. We want to develop new solutions for the European aquaculture to be more adapted to climate change and also to mitigate climate change. But there are three words here that explain the innovation of ACTFAST. One is tailored. All the solutions that are developed in ACTFAST are site-specific, species-specific, solution-oriented, problem-solving oriented, are developed to address a specific problem. The use of artificial intelligence to predict climate changes, this is the other innovation. And we also put opportunity, because climate change could be also an opportunity. For example, at least in the Mediterranean basin, fish can be fed for a longer period in autumn. And if you can guarantee welfare and health of fish, the production season is longer. So, or in carp farming, during winter, it's possible now to keep feeding carps and make them grow also during a cold season. So this is the general information about the project. I can see here friends from Philosophish and Chromaris connected together with FEAP, which are partners of ACTFAST. The project will start on June, will last 4 years. The budget is 4.5 million euros. We are 28 partners from 10 different countries, 16 of which are private companies, feed companies, farms, fish farms, mollusk farms. You can see here all the logos of the partners of the project. The approach is to work in 4 different key climate zones for Europe. So the Mediterranean basin, which is the most the weakest basin in the world in terms of effects of climate change, the climatologists told us. Delta, which are in the Mediterranean, the weakest part of the Mediterranean, so Po River, Ebro River, and Nile River, Spain, Italy, and Egypt, but also northeastern Atlantic for salmon production, and freshwater aquaculture in Central Eastern Europe, with Slovenia and Hungary involved as countries part of ACTFAST. We also invested a lot. 15% of the budget of ACTFAST will be used to develop new tools for climate prediction, artificial intelligence-based tools to climate prediction. It will be possible for farmers to put the position of the farm in an ACTFAST internet website, and receive information and alarms about unexpected climate events, storms, heat waves, algal blooms, whatever. It will be for free. It will be a service provided by ACTFAST. Okay, this is the list of the most important innovations, and I'm not going to describe in detail all of them, but we have 15 key exploitable results. We have more than 15 results, but we selected 15 of them, which can be also exploited at the industrial level, at practical level. You can see here the fields of interest. So climate prediction, low carbon aquafeeds, I already mentioned these two parts, health improvement and disease prevention in fin fish production, sustainable mollusk production. I already mentioned the blue crab, so we will try to protect clams from blue crab with the resistant crab-proof boxes. But also we will also provide Spanish farmers with genetic tools to select mussel seed, which is more resistant to climate changes. And also we will work on multi-trophic systems, both in freshwater and marine water, with different organisms, with different fish and extractive organisms. We also, in terms of stakeholder engagement, dissemination, capacity building, we will also have an innovative methodology and tool, and we call it ACTFAST Virtual Lighthouse. So it will be a virtual demo site, a software with in virtual reality, where it will be possible to see all the innovations that ACTFAST will develop during the project. With all the specific information, all the specific contacts, maybe to ask if it's possible to use them, numbers, results obtained in the project. This virtual lighthouse will be also used for capacity building. There will be many training courses and webinars. There will be also a dedicated webinar for Ukrainian farmers developed by the Hungarian partners of ACTFAST for carp farming. And this tool will be used to help stakeholders to follow these courses, which I'm a teacher. I know that courses are normally boring. Farmers do not have time to follow them. And this is a way to make it more accessible, the training information and the material that we will generate in the project. And I will end my presentation thanking FEAP for participating in ACTFAST as a partner, but also for the contribution that you gave us during the project development. We already work together in Takakwa. You are a very good partner for dissemination and for stakeholder engagement. So I'm pretty sure that we work very well together, as we already did. But also the 7 national associations that through FEAP endorsed the project. We attached 7 endorsement letters of national farmer associations to ACTFAST, and for sure that gave an additional value to the project. So thank you very much.